Day 103.
We've lost track.
Day 5. Day 5. We didn't do as many things today, but we still did a lot today.
We did the things that we did do in depth. Yeah.
We did them well. So we've always started with breakfast. That didn't really happen today. We just kind of grabbed stall food as we went.
It was kind of a catastrophe this morning.
Yeah, Princess's magical food sense was a little on the fritz this morning, but
yeah.
We've been tired. We're pretty run down. Like, we've been going full tilt for almost a week now. Our bodies are tired, and they are trying to tell us in every possible way that they want to break.
Yeah.
My foot is swollen. My back hurts.
My back was hurting, yeah.
We're still having a lot of fun. We're still seeing a lot of things, but there's a lot more of where can we sit?
Yeah. Take every opportunity. I'm just going to sit for a second.
Like, I want to read that plaque, but can I read it in a chair?
Yeah.
So we started by going to the Tower of London. Which is not a tower.
It's not a tower. Yeah, well, I mean, it is a tower, but...
It has towers.
It has 20 towers, actually, not just one.
If you want to picture the Tower of London roughly, very roughly, picture a castle.
Well, kind of a fortress.
Yeah.
It's basically a fortress.
You're roughly in the right ballpark with castle or fortress.
You can see it better from across the river than you can on this side of the river.
Our itinerary thing predicted we would spend about 3 hours there, and it was pretty close.
It was pretty close, 3 hours.
We have not spent 3 hours anywhere, except maybe the British Museum.
Yeah.
And about an hour and a half of that was trying to leave.
Yeah.
And we just kept getting distracted by things. We were there for a while. Now, the one thing we can't show you is the crown jewels.
Yeah, they won't let you take pictures.
They do not allow pictures, and the more I thought about it, I think it's to encourage tourism.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Although, honestly, they're a little bit underwhelming in person.
They're fancy, but it's not like they would let you wear them or anything.
No, I was telling them, like they missed a total tourism opportunity by just having replica crown jewels that you can get your picture taken with. Totally, like, people would pay out the wazoo for that.
But apparently, if they catch you taking a picture with your phone, they will stand there and watch you delete it before you leave.
Yeah.
So we didn't even try, but there were plenty of places to take pictures.
Yes.
We got pictures. You got a picture of one of the ravens, right?
Yes.
There are 7. There are 6 official ravens that live there and a standby raven.
In case something happens.
Because legend says if there aren't 6 ravens at the Tower of London,
the tower will fall and the kingdom will collapse. Like, all bad things happen.
Yes.
So it's a weird
Donald Trump will get elected president. Like, really bad things will happen.
It's a weird superstition. But they're way bigger than I thought they were. Like, they're big birds.
Yeah, and so their wings are partially clipped to keep them there. And it was like, but in case you think that that's, cruel to the animals, they also live 20 years longer than they do in the wild.
Yeah.
Because they're so well fed and taken care of. Those birds are not hurting for nothing.
No.
So let's see. We saw the crown jewels. We did a tour with one of the beef eaters. He showed us around.
Yeah. He said he has no idea where that nickname comes from, so don't bother asking him.
No, but it's
lost to history.
It's a very prestigious position. You have to have like 30 years of service in a military branch.
Yeah.
And then you get to actually live on the tower grounds with your family.
That was the coolest part. Oh my god.
They live there.
Oh, I'm so jealous. Like, I would totally do that. The Queen has a house there. I don't know if
she residence.
Okay. It says Queen's house.
Okay.
On the placard. But I don't know if she actually ever goes there.
I doubt she does.
I'd be surprised.
But let's see. We saw a torture chamber.
We did.
We saw information on what was the Royal Menagerie, because they used to keep all kinds of exotic beasts there, like armadillos.
And lions, and like they had an elephant, and I think there was like
monkeys.
Raccoons.
There was a monkey room until the monkeys attacked somebody, and then they had to get rid of the monkey room.
Well, no, the monkeys were like free in the room. There weren't any cages until the monkeys horribly attacked someone. But they were like, the attacks for the animals were not uncommon. Like, there was a story about a woman who was petting a lion's paw, and the lion suddenly attacked her and like tore all of the flesh from her arm, and they had to amputate it, but she ended up dying anyway.
We toured the Royal Mint and learned a lot about coinage,
which was interesting, and like the counterfeits and how easy it was to fake them and stuff, and how prevalent the fakes were.
We saw ordnance ranging from medieval armor to cannons to guns, archery.
Swords.
There was a dragon sculpture for no reason that we could discern.
It was bizarre. I don't know.
We don't know what it was there for. We don't
know
why it was
modern.
there. Don't know. It looked like it was made out of antique looking parts. It was made to look like it was made from antique parts.
Except for the giant glowing red eyes that were modern. Yeah.
It was the one thing that had no explanation. They also had like a child fun zone with like a lot of interactive stuff.
Uh-huh. Oh, we had fun with those.
We made sure to let the children go first.
Yeah. Yeah, we were very polite about it.
Yes, but we did play with some.
And then we grabbed some lunch. It's an opportunity to really just sit.
Actually, did we go through... No, we did not get lunch then.
Okay.
We went across the Tower Bridge, which was an experience.
No, my lunch, not your lunch.
Oh, yeah, we sat and got...
Yeah. We keep doing my lunch, his lunch, my lunch, his lunch. Because we're not hungry at the same time. We went to the, what was it called? New Armories Cafe or something like that?
Yes, this is still back at the Tower of London.
It was inside the Tower of London. And it was actually really good. I think it was like one of my favorite traditional British lunches that we've had so far. It was like a nice leek and potato soup. I also got to try Victoria Sponge for the first time, which I thought would be pretty gross, but I was wrong. It was delicious. It was really delicious. If you've never had Victoria Sponge, we've got a picture of it somewhere. But
then we walked across the Tower Bridge, which is a very fancy bridge.
It is a very fancy bridge.
Super fancy.
In fact, I thought it was the London Bridge.
You could easily convince somebody it was the London Bridge, except it's got these giant towers, and it's called the Tower Bridge.
It is not, in fact, the London Bridge. We have not been to the London Bridge. I don't know what the London Bridge looks like. But this is what I would have thought it looked like in my head, picturing the London Bridge.
Tomorrow's our last day. We may or may not make it to the London Bridge. We'll going to
see.
Yeah, because we're pretty tired, and we still got some big stuff ahead of us.
Yes.
So we walked across the Tower Bridge, took some pictures, and then we went onto the HMS Belfast, which is a World War II battleship that they have turned into a floating museum. And by floating museum, I mean they just preserved it for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, they put up some plaques as to what it was, but of all the museums and things that we've seen, this is the most authentic experience.
Yeah.
Because very little has changed.
Yeah, and it's on the river, so it's still floating on the water.
Yeah. It got a little cramped down, especially when you got down into like the engine room and the boiler room. It was some pretty close quarters in there. There was a lot of stuff to see. I'm a larger guy. I filled up a walkway. But it also was the least crowded. There weren't near as many tourists there as there have been everywhere else.
I had whole rooms to myself for
it was pretty cool.
A while. But the thing that is hard to like really convey is the scale of this ship, like the number of people who lived on it. I don't remember how many.
It was 1,000-ish for months at a time.
But like they pointed out like
they had a dentist. They
had like 60 shop type places, like for clothing, for food, for like all kinds of random stuff. But they also, like they pointed out, like in the bakeries, they fed the smaller vessels that couldn't have bakeries themselves, and so like they made bread there, and so they would make like
600 loaves,
like thousands and thousands of pounds of bread for the nearby ships. So, like these are like big. I'm pretty sure I took some pictures of some of these like areas, but it was like heavy duty stuff, and it was pretty cool. Like that people like lived their lives here, and they showed you like how they would do that. Back
there
in
was
the day.
one point where I went all the way down to the bottom, and I was 15 feet below sea level.
I took a picture of that. Yeah,
I did too. All right, so we got 2 pictures of that. You can compare and contrast them and decide which one you like better, but I'm not going to tell you who took which one because I don't care.
No, it was a pretty cool ship.
It really was. It was a hoot. And then we went and had early dinner at a place called Absolutely Starving. It was an Egyptian wrap.
I picked it because the name was Absolutely Starving, and I was like, well, obviously we're going here.
We've kind of been wanting to go. There's a chain here called Eat.
Yeah.
EAT, period. You see it all over the place.
Everywhere.
And in America, it would be an exclamation mark, but here it's just eat. It's not eat. It's eat. And I'm like, I kind of want to eat there. Like, I feel like compelled. I've seen it so many times, but we did not make it to eat. Instead, we went to absolutely starving.
They have weird hours. They're like 10 to 4.
Yeah, eat.
The things here, like, they don't stay open as long as we would expect them to.
Yeah.
Like, almost everything closes down like 5:30.
The nightlife here is not. Well,
I mean, there's plenty of pubs.
Yeah,
Don't
we're
get me wrong.
the wrong people for the nightlife, I think.
Yeah.
But and speaking of nightlife, we did some, but we had Egyptian wraps.
Egyptian wraps. My first Egyptian food. Well, I can't even remember what they were called. Or what was in. I'm not entirely sure what was in them either, but they were pretty tasty.
It was solid. It was really good.
Yeah.
It was very enjoyable.
Mine had something like falafel, except not made with chickpeas. It was made with broad beans, which apparently are more nutritious, so who knows?
I had smoked chicken.
It was delicious.
It was really good. And then we went on the Ripper tour, the Ripper experience, the Ripper vision thing.
Yeah.
We did a Jack the Ripper tour.
Yeah.
It was a walking tour. Our tour guide was an excellent speaker. He was he had his delivery down.
It's 10 Bells Pub. If anybody's ever seen, heard, read, or heard of anything that talks about Jack the Ripper, it talks about the 10 Bells. All of the victims and surely the killer really did drink in there. That's not. Picture here was taken on the day she died. You can see her face and her neck were all swollen. It's not very nice. It's now, though, 3 weeks since the murder of Annie Chapman, the 30th of September 1888, a Saturday night. And that brings us to, wait for it, here. This is Burner Street. Now,
he had a great cadence.
Voice too.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a voice you wanted to listen to.
It was a really big group, and it was a lot of walking. And honestly, we are tired of walking, but it was worth it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, we didn't know this going into this, but our tour guide actually has written 2 books about Jack the Ripper, and like, he told us that the book that he wrote recently won like the 2017 award for like best book in the true crime category at this
Liverpool Festival for Literature.
Whatever. But so he was like he knew everything about serial killers.
Not just Jack the Ripper,
No,
because
like,
in between stops he would frequently just turn to whoever's next to him and say, "Where are you from?"
And then he started like listing through the serial killers that came from there, and it wasn't just like country. It was also like he knew ones from Texas, he knew ones from New York, from California, like everywhere.
He knew provinces in Canada. Yeah, and it wasn't just 1 or 2. Like, he would list off several.
Yeah.
It was kind of an unofficial tour in between stops. Whoever was with him, oh, I'm from X. Oh, well, here's 4 serial killers from X. Which one do you want me to talk about? And he would give you the extensive history of whichever one, and then you'd be at the next stop.
Yeah, and he gave us like 3 from Texas that I've never heard of.
One I had heard of but didn't know anything about, and then the other 2 I hadn't heard of.
So he was like.
The man knows his subject matter.
You said he was like a walking encyclopedia of serial killers.
He was a serial killer Wikipedia.
I'm very tempted to buy his book because I'm like he didn't really go into his personal theories, but he apparently like dug down like deep into the original records and the original files for the Jack the Ripper case, and he has identified a person who is not traditionally considered a suspect. So perhaps that's why he won the award. But I'm curious. So I'm not really into true crime stuff. I even asked him, I was like, so what was it about this case that really drew in people's attention? Like, why were they so interested in it? And
his response was pretty interesting and it put me, well, his response was simply, this was the first serial killer that occurred after newspapers became really available to the public. You know, it wasn't just something for the hoi polloi, for the fancy people. This was everybody on the street could get a newspaper for a nickel or the equivalent. So it was the first serial killer covered in the press.
Yeah, and he pointed out like this definitely was not like the first serial killer in this area.
But if you look back at our history, you know, you get similar things when we start the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, stories that never occurred before are now big news because we have all this time to fill. Turns out that's the history of news from the very beginning. The more available news becomes, the bigger things get reported.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I drew some interesting parallels in my head, and I'm not putting them out very clearly, but...
He showed us some really gory pictures,
which
I did not know existed.
There were some actual crime scene photos from the 1800s.
Yeah, and they were like...
They were rough.
Like, yeah, the one of Mary Kelly was the worst, and it was like an excellent example of like, you know, like early crime scene photography. It was pretty horrifying, but...
So, tomorrow is our last day in England. And then the next day we get on a plane.
Woohoo!
So, we don't have a whole lot planned for tomorrow. So we'll see.
We're trying to, like, unplan stuff for tomorrow.
We're trying to tone it down. Really, I told her earlier, like, in the future, when I take a week-long trip to somewhere, I'm going to specifically plan for, like, the middle day to be a very light day. Just a day to rest and recover. Maybe nothing after 2 p.m. Right? Because we've been pushing ourselves. I'm not in the greatest shape. That's not a secret. We can all look at me and be like, yes, of course the fat man's tired from walking up 600 flights of stairs. Princess is in shape.
Yeah.
She's tired too.
Yeah, in all fairness, my feet are really screwed up because if anybody knows anything about my feet, I don't have arches, and that makes the inside of my foot, like this part where the arch should be, really vulnerable. And
yeah, but your back's killing you too. Like...
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if my back's killing me because I'm trying to compensate for the pain in my feet, but like these are like this area, the inside of my foot is like rock solid.
The point is, even a healthy person is worn out at the pace we've been going at. So we've got one big thing tomorrow. We got a couple of little things, and then we've got a couple of we'll see how we feels. So that's it. We're gonna go to bed because
Yay, bedtime!
we hurt. Say night, princess.
Night, princess?
Night, princess.